Welcome to the Creative Tools Podcast. My name is Ashay, and I'm immensely passionate about using technology for creativity. On this podcast, I talk to various creators about what tools and technology they use to be creative. My guest today is Cheyanne Donald. Cheyanne is a digital artist in Santa Cruz, California. She wears many hats such as sports therapist, body mechanics expert, digital illustrator, and a regular host of events for creators. Her creations are tangible, accessible, and create an environment and experience. She spends all of her time creating and connecting, and she loves the chaos of it all. Hey, Cheyanne, thanks a lot for visiting my podcast.
Hey.
So let's dive right in. My first question is, what do you create?
I create digital illustrations.
So the illustrations that you have created have always been digital, or you started with analog and then moved to digital?
I started with analog and I started doing digital about 2.5 years ago.
Is that completely hand-drawn illustrations, or you use some other?
Completely hand-drawn illustrations.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
Yeah.
So then I want to talk about the 3 steps in your creations. The first one is pre-creation. So what happens before you start creating, then the actual creation part, and then post-creation. So what happens after you create. So let's talk about the pre-creation first. And in that, what I want to know about is how do you record and how do you retrieve inspiration for your creations?
I spend a lot of time going to places that make me think about stuff. I take a lot of pictures. I load those pictures to like a Procreate, and then I kind of move landscape, and then one can see a landscape in the images with the photographs. Then I take all that out and I start to look at how I want to put them together. A lot of what I do, I guess that sounds really good. A lot of what I do is I illustrate areas to be as women that know.
Can you still hear me? Your voice, I think my internet connection was unstable, so I could not. Okay. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Let me put this
Okay.
somewhere. Okay. So can we start that again? Just the last question. How do you record and how do you retrieve your inspiration?
Right. Okay. So a lot of what I draw is about what things feel like. So I will go to places that I want to create landscapes of or images of, and then I will take photographs of them with my iPad or my iPhone. And then I'll load them into Procreate, which is the app that I use for illustration. And then I'll kind of merge them together a little bit to get an idea of what the area is. And then once I kind of understand what the area is that I'm looking at, I research all the history of that area, and then I throw it all together and I create an illustration. A lot of my illustrations are, if the area itself were a person, what would it look like? I know that's really weird sounding.
Interesting. So you try to add like a human element to your illustrations.
I try to add a human element. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Excellent. So has it ever happened with you that you recorded something, like you took a picture
Mhm.
You took a picture, you recorded something, and then it like months went by, and then you reused or used the picture that you have taken like few months ago to create your illustration.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A
So
lot
then,
of times I gather information for a very long time before I even do anything with it.
so how do you remember, or how do you retrieve? That's because that's something that I really want to understand is when you have, let's say, photos in your phone or photos on your iPad,
Mhm.
what makes you go back to a particular photo to use that for as an inspiration?
Okay, that's a really good question. So a lot of times the inspiration kind of comes and goes, right? You're like in this area and you're like, yeah, this is really great. I really want to do this. And then I get home and I'm like, no, I can't. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm not going to do this. And then I'll just be flipping through because sometimes I'll just sit and I'll go, I don't know what I want to do today. And I try to draw something every day.
Okay.
I try to draw something every day. So sometimes I just flip through until I land on something that I go, oh my God, that thing that I remember how that felt. And I'll open it up and I'll look at it for a while and I'll try to figure out what that means or what I wanted to do with it. Sometimes that inspiration totally changes and I get derailed onto something else. But a lot of times I literally do just flip through the photos and go, oh, that's what that feeling was. That's what I was looking for.
So you just mentioned that you draw every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that you kind of schedule your creativity. Schedule your creative adventures because you are. Um, that is like one of the motivations that you have to scroll through your pictures. Am I
Yes.
correct? Okay. This is very similar
Absolutely.
to, I was talking to a podcaster yesterday, and she mentioned to me that she does a wellness podcast. So she talks a lot about how to be healthy, uh, how to generate like mental wealth, and
Yes.
then she said that she doesn't do she doesn't do the podcast every day, but she schedules it. Like she schedules like every single week she has like slots open for her recording, and then whenever an
Yes.
idea hits her, she just uh, fills those slots with those ideas so that she knows that she has to talk about it. So it is very similar that you also mentioned that you schedule the creativity, which is really good. um, but then I understand you schedule some time to go through your inspiration, but do you also
Mhm.
have planned that, okay, I'm going to uh, work on this feeling or this picture like 2 weeks from now? I mean, have you done anything like that, or no?
Sometimes I'll try to say, so I work with a couple of different companies and they will ask me to draw specific things. And so I have to go try to find the inspiration for that thing. I might not feel the inspiration for that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I work with a coffee company and the labels for the coffee art are based on local areas and landmarks in our town. And so I'll have to go and sit there for a while and she has a deadline and I have to try to be like, okay, this is going to think. And sometimes that just doesn't happen. So I'll sit there and I'll try to think about it and I'll look at it and I'll schedule time to do it. And it might not be until the night before that I actually end up drawing and finishing that product because I can't do anything. I have
Mm-hmm.
so many other ideas or things that come up and I'm like, no, I want to draw this now. No, I want to do this now.
Great. And when you take a picture of something that you think is inspirational, do you only take a photo, or do you also record something about that picture, like how you felt, or like something like that? Do you make notes?
Yeah, I do. A lot of times I'll either make a voice note or I'll write down, um, was it cold? How did it look? I'll go at different times of the day. Is it foggy most of the time? Is it, those kinds of things? What what types of things come out like at the sunset or sunrise, and are there boats out there often, because we live in a beach town, so it's a lot of like what's happening in the moment or what events happen here all the time kind of thing.
But then those voice notes and all the other notes that you have, how are they connected to the picture that you have taken?
I'll load the picture into the notes app on my iPad.
Okay. And
I'll put it all in there together.
Oh, okay, good. So basically in the notes app, you have the picture and notes together.
Yeah.
Can you also record a voice note in notes app? I did not know that. I'm just asking.
I can press and talk to it, but I can't listen to it, but it'll dictate.
Okay. Oh yeah. You dictate. So it's like a speech to text kind of.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Great. So now let's talk about the creation part. So you mentioned that you create in the Procreate app.
Yes.
So that's on your iPad, I presume.
Yeah. Dude, the iPad kind of changed my life.
Let's talk about that actually.
I hate giving it that kind of power.
So you load those pictures in your iPad, and then you will see what kind of inspiration that gives you, and then you draw on Procreate. Okay, I understood. Do you is Procreate the only place where you create, or you also use some other apps or some other mechanisms as well?
I mean, I'll use Illustrator and Photoshop when I have to. I absolutely hate using them. I went to school for that.
Is it? Okay.
I went to school for illustration and animation and all of that stuff, and I dropped out. I hated it so much. It took me a really long time to get back into drawing on the computer. And somebody bought me an iPad for Christmas because events happen and I needed somewhere to draw and somewhere to be, and the iPad, I picked it up, and I first picked up all the apps for Illustrator and Photoshop, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And so if I don't have to use anything other than Procreate, I'm a really happy person.
And what's special about Procreate that drew you in?
Working with Procreate was almost exactly like drawing with pen and paper.
Okay.
In the sense that I could sketch out my ideas really easily. It landed in real time. There's no delay, and then I could take a layer over that and finalize that outline so that I could have it. I can color it in, I can paint, I can change the brushes, and it's like watercolor or it's like gouache. And so it's all the things that I've used before, but without the mess of everything I used before. Whereas there's a big learning curve to using Illustrator and Photoshop, in the sense that I have to really work within the vectors and the movements that it creates, and it feels very choppy. This Procreate felt very natural. The only thing I'm missing, and the thing that took me the longest thing to get used to, is the slipperiness of the pen on the iPad itself. There's no paper underneath, right?
So I make films, so I have Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So there are two steps that I have always observed in creating something. The first thing is, whenever you're trying to create something, you build a prototype kind of sort of, or a sketch. And while doing that, you basically make your decisions, but then you also build the entire creation in your head first. When you are sketching it or when you are making a prototype, and then the step comes of uncovering what's in front of you, so that you reach the creation that you're seeing in your head in front of your eyes. So do you also experience the same thing?
Yes. I'll see a lot of what I want to have out, and I think the nice thing about using digital, as far as like not using my sketchbook, is that when I sketch it out, if I don't like it, I just make it go away.
Yeah.
Start again.
Yeah, I'm a strong believer of this fact that what digital technology has done for creators is it has given them a power of making a choice rather than a decision. Because
Absolutely.
yeah, because earlier when you were painting analog, let's say you're painting on canvas, if you wanted to try
Right.
something new, you had to uh, get another canvas, right?
Right.
But with digital, it's not true. It's digital. You paint something, you can copy it, you can change its form, change its color, and now you have a choice between two things to choose from, and that choice is much easier than a decision. So
Yeah. It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. There's no fear in the creation process. You can literally do anything you want.
right.
Whereas before you were like, well, I think I want to put a bird over here. And if I do, I'm stuck with a bird over here.
Right.
Right.
So let's talk about that choice aspect a little bit. So
Okay.
um so when you sketch and when you are trying to like uncover the creation that you are seeing in your head with Procreate, do you make like several versions of your creations and then go through them, and then choose one that kind of matches what you are seeing in your head, or how does it work for you?
Um, I create layers, and
Okay.
so when I want to add something in, I'll take and I'll add a new layer. I'll try out that thing that I want to put in there. And the nice thing about it is that maybe I drew it too big and I need it to be smaller. If I want it to be on the left instead of the right, if I want to be, I can play with that layer until I get it in the space that I want it and merge it down with the regular drawing, and there it is.
Hmm.
you know,
So
so
with
it's fantastic. I have a lot of choices,
so
right?
with this layering mechanism, do you also create like some templates for yourself that you can reuse in some other illustrations? Like some
I
specific.
don't.
Go ahead.
I could. I know like my tattoo artists do that. They create templates like if they want to have flowers and stuff like that,
Yeah,
they'll do that.
yeah.
I haven't done that. Um, but I do find myself going through and stealing design elements from other drawings.
Right.
I'll be like, oh, I want to add that piece of that thing and tie them together. And so I'll go in and steal them. Absolutely.
This is so profound. I will tell you why I find this extremely interesting, because I strongly believe that us creators, when we create something, our own creations can become inspirations for our next creations,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And but sometimes what happens with me is I make films and I may have done something while making that film like many years ago, and I kind of vaguely remember that I have done it, but I can never find it. Like I can never go back and find it because it's so much data. So how can, so how what do you do if you want to reuse elements of your earlier creations? How do you find those creations?
Well, so it's really easy because so the program that I'm using sections everything. So if I have a series of art that's based on a city, I can put all of those pieces in that category. And so I can be like, oh, this was in a city piece and it's in here, right? It's really easy to find. Or I'll do pet portraits and they're over here and I do, right? So everything I do can be easily shuffled into a little category and then retrieved super quickly.
So, but you need to categorize them manually, correct? You need to,
Yeah.
when you create something, let's say something about a city, you need to
Mhm.
remember to put that illustration in the city folder so that you can
I
find it later.
started in the city folder. So
Oh,
if I
you
open
start
up,
in the city folder.
yeah, if
Okay.
I want to do a city drawing, I open up the city folder and I start a new canvas in there and I draw right there.
Oh, okay. Okay. Great. Um, but then when you say you reuse elements, does it mean that your illustrations are already layered and not merged? So you can maybe use the like one of the many layers of the earlier illustrations for the for the current. Okay.
So I make multiple copies of each illustration. So I'll make copies that don't have a background, or I'll make copies that are completely merged together so that they're easy to send off, where I'm not having to like alter them or do anything to them.
And where do you store these copies?
What's that?
Where do you store these copies?
They're all on my iPad.
Yeah, but in the same folder, or do you make like a folder for one?
All within. So it'll be the original piece, and it'll be labeled the original piece, and then it'll be merged piece, and then it'll be backgroundless, and then, you know, and they'll all just kind of go in a row.
And all of this in like one folder for that particular illustration?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you have, let's say, a city folder. Inside the city folder, you have all the city illustration folders. Yes. And then in that folder, you have these multiple versions or elements of the illustration. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. This is super amazing, by the way. I mean, I'm so enjoying this. So you have no idea. I have not used Procreate much. And honestly, I don't sketch. I'm horrible at sketching and drawing. I can visualize, like when I make films, I can visualize scenes, but I can't sketch. But I totally get what you're saying, because I can kind of apply this to filmmaking as well. Like whenever I'm doing the scene, so for a particular shot, we also add several layers of visual elements on it. So it's a base layer, then there is a grading layer, then there is grain, there is this vignette, like all these layers are there. And it just makes film very visually rich. Great. Now let's talk about the post-creation process, where you, how do you release, how do you distribute, and how do you market your creations?
Oh. So, like, in what way?
So let me tell you this. So by release, what I mean is release from yourself. Like, you know now that you are not going to make any changes to your creation. That's called release. So so when you release them, do you make, I understood the thing that you just mentioned, that you make like multiple versions of them in one folder, but then for all of your illustrations, do you make like a list or a catalog that somewhere in the spreadsheet or something like that, where you can reach those illustrations again later? Or if somebody asks you, like, can you send me a list of all your illustrations? Can you do that quickly?
Oh, that would be so much better than me just being like, oh God, I don't know. Spreadsheets are the worst thing. No, I actually have I have nothing organized like that.
So then, then another version of this could be, do you publish your illustrations on some platform?
Yes. So I will load them onto Instagram and Facebook when I release, like when I go, oh my gosh, I finished a new drawing, here it is. And I just kind of send it out into the world. And then I will print like 1 or 2 of each piece. And then I'll try to have a gallery showing with the pieces that I have in that collection with the new piece, right? But I don't print very many of them. Sometimes I'll make them into cards or sweatshirts or something just for an event. But that's kind of it.
Okay. And when you publish to Instagram, do you use any scheduling tools, or you just publish whenever you finish an illustration?
I try really hard to schedule my posts so that I don't put them all together all at once, but it doesn't always work out like that.
So what do you do? What do you use for scheduling posts?
Instagram has its own, like when you have a business manager, they have the business manager page and they have a schedule your events or schedule your posts kind of thing. And so I'll load things onto there, but
you still have to do it one by one, right? Like you, okay. So you upload an image and then you put a date against it.
Yeah. Okay. And then you make the post and then it sends it out when it's ready.
Have you done any kind of like time lapse videos of your creations or illustrations?
No.
So most of the content that you publish is image, not like reels. Am I correct?
Yeah, I never think ahead to do anything like that. And I know that Procreate has a thing where it will record your stuff for you.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm not that, when it comes down to this kind of stuff, I'm not that savvy. And I know it's probably better. People are like, "Oh, we want to see your process," and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if you actually do want to see my process.
Yeah, my process is for myself, right?
But every once in a while, I will load a picture of me drawing something. I'll be like, "Hey, look, there's like 5 hands and a apple." Like, I don't know.
Okay. So what is the biggest challenge you face in your creation process?
Staying motivated.
Okay.
Yeah.
But with you scheduling your creativity and making time for going through those measures, I mean, does it help? Or, I mean, how are you solving this problem of staying motivated?
Right. Okay. So let's get really personal here. I'm bipolar.
Okay.
Which is super fun, right? Because when I'm creative, I am really creative. So when I'm manic, I will pump out like 7 or 8 drawings in a day. I'll be like, yeah, I'm doing all of this stuff, right? And the reason that I schedule my stuff is so that I can try to manage those ups and downs of the bipolar with like feeding myself through creativity. So I kind of know when I'm going to be manic or kind of in that lower range of feeling. And so if I can stick to the schedule throughout that, at least I'm getting something done every day. But those low moments, and sometimes even those manic moments, are really hard to navigate because I will either have so many ideas that I choke myself on the inspiration, or I can't even fathom sitting down and drawing for 5 minutes because it feels painful. So that schedule is something that I make myself do so that I can funnel everything I have into that. Which I guess that's a lot.
Yeah. So I guess this kind of goes to my next question is, I mean, sometimes when I'm editing a film,
Yeah.
I feel extremely lonely because because it's like so much stuff in front of me, and I have to make sure that I'm telling a story from these images that I have in front of me, and it's tremendous burden and pressure. And and sometimes I feel that if I had a companion, like, right, I mean, companion not necessarily mean a human being, but like something that could help me here to make these choices. So do you feel like that sometimes when you are creating? Like, do you feel a need for some companionship?
So I always feel bad for my companions. Because I am either too busy creating to pay attention to them, or too overwhelmed to do anything. But I feel like, you know, I've done a lot of things in my life and I've had a lot of jobs. I do anything. If somebody asks me if I can do something, I say, yes, absolutely, I can do this. But art has been the one thing that has always made sense to me, and people interactions don't always make sense to me. So I will deep dive into my art and forget that other people even exist for a long time. And then realize that it's been 5 days and I haven't eaten or talking to another human being.
Oh, wow.
And when I'm when I'm in that depressed suppression mode, it is nice to have somebody there to be like, hey, like, let's not be here. But I'm not the greatest partner. I feel very much like that artist temperament is a real thing.
Yeah.
You know, my passion really is art, and you know, up until recently I had never had a partner that was like able to manage with that. And so that's,
I mean, yes, I completely get it. It's sometimes so difficult. Like when I was filming my feature film 2 years ago, we were all of us were together for these 21 days, like working 17 hours a day, and so much like relationships and friendships and looking out for each other, right? For in those 17 days.
right.
And then on the 18th day, when everything, and when I came back home, and basically I came back to reality, and I'm like, okay, now I have to do dishes, I have to, I have to help someone cook, I have to look after my kids, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like I completely was completely in a different world for like last 17 days, and now
Right.
I'm, and it was very difficult for me to come to switch and come back. But then my family, when I came back, my family had been away from me for 17 days, so they were expecting me to like spend time with them.
Right.
And I'm like, oh,
Wait a minute, wait.
you have no idea what I've been through. So it was just I mean, and the great meaning, it's a very different experience, and I think only creators would understand that, like
Yeah.
that when you are creating something, and when you are like in the moment of creating art, it's a completely different world, and it's a
It really
uh,
is.
and coming out of that is can become very difficult.
It
Anyway,
does.
yeah. Um, so another question I have is, do you use any automations or process improvements to make your life easier and make your life easier being creative?
You know, I don't actually. I know that there's a lot of things and programs that people can use to help them kind of move through that process. And
Yeah.
um, I haven't found any that work for me. I just get annoyed with them. And so most of the time it's just that making myself do those things.
So, I mean, the reason I'm asking this is,
Yeah.
like, for example, I post on Instagram as well. I post a series called Thought Shots.
Okay.
So I think about like stuff a lot, and I want to write my thoughts in like small essays, and I publish
Yeah.
those essays as text. But the publishing part of Instagram and publishing part of Twitter is so painful, because there is no creativity in it. That you need to think about, okay, this is the resolution of my photo, this is the aspect ratio, I have to upload this now, I have to think about the text of the post, I have to think about hashtags,
Right.
and then and I, and I have to publish this at this time, and it becomes extremely painful. And I'm like, and I strongly believe that creativity is a rechargeable resource. So,
Mhm.
but your battery will go down after a certain time.
Yes.
So you need to make sure that you preserve the creative energy as much as you can before it goes down. And this stuff like publishing takes a lot of my time and energy, and I really don't want to do it. Like I
Yeah.
would rather just keep writing thoughts. That's my forte. I don't want to spend time in publishing. So I mean, I have found some workarounds for it. Like I have found I built an automation for me so that I can just write thoughts and then it automatically picks up the thought and then publishes it to Instagram, Twitter, and
That's awesome.
LinkedIn. But I mean, I wish it was obvious to people, but
Right.
it's not. So, and there is another thing that I think is there is a difference between productivity and creativity.
Yes.
And productivity is all about destinations, like how you reach faster to the
Yes.
destination. Creativity is about journey to those
Yes.
destinations, right? And how you amplify the journey to those destinations. And if you want to be creative longer, the first thing you should do is take care of the destinations, like take care of publishing. I mean, just think about automation to publish it, and then I will just focus on the journey. So,
I get that. I get that.
yeah. So I mean, just something that I have thought very recently, and uh, one of the reasons why I'm doing this podcast is to understand like how folks are using technology and tools to be basically help them be creative, not just productive, but creative.
Right. There's a lot of things that are wonderfully creative about what we use. I spend a lot of time being very inefficient on social media. Because not only do I run events, not only do I make art, but I make flyers for events and then I run events. And so I spend a good portion of my time writing little things and writing up stuff about artists. And I run events with like 30 or 40 vendors in it. And so I write something about every artist that's in the event. And then I have to post that. And then I have to share it to every single page that I'm on.
Right.
So it's hard. Social media takes up a good portion of my life, and it's unfortunate because
and one thing that is true also these days is you can't just be an illustrator. Like
no.
you are an illustrator, you are a video maker, you are a marketer. Like
you have to do everything.
You have to do everything. It's not just like one thing that you could do. So
right.
So my last question is, what is the vision what is your vision for your creations? And by vision, what I mean is, with the tools and technology that you see around you, do you see yourself creating in a different manner in future?
Yes, absolutely. In just the last couple of years, everything that I've done and everything that I've known with art has completely changed. And my perspective on what was possible with the art that I create and where it can go is totally different. So as I'm learning to utilize new tools are coming out all the time, right? And so the prospect of creating something that can be seen on multiple platforms rather than just I'm drawing in a book, and in that book I have to leave it there until I figure out what to do with it and how to make it digital, right? Now I'm making a digital piece of art that I can share anywhere and print anywhere and do anything with. For a lot of people, that's been a reality for a long time. For me, that's only been a couple of years. But in that meantime, like I've created kids' books now, and I'm doing illustrations for this, and I'm doing that. And my art has gone from being a linear aspect to just all kinds of places and everywhere that it could possibly be. And it's huge, and it's kind of scary, but it's really exciting.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that that has happened with me is earlier when I was only making films, I could focus on that medium. But these days, because I can do multiple things at once and try out things, it just makes me lose focus on what I want to do. But it also helps me spread horizontally in like many mediums around me to express myself. So that's
it's awesome. It's so cool.
Yeah. Great. Hey, Cheyanne, thanks a lot for your time. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in. If you are a creator, I would love to talk with you. Please connect with me through my website or social media. See you in the next episode.